Gandhi once said, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world," and that change can happen today, actually during your next meal. We don't think about the type of diets we consume or how it affects our life, but today I'll give you another perspective on the type of diet that's called plant-based diet. So to clarify, this diet consists of plant foods such as vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, grain, excluding any meat products, dairy products, and eggs. So my major claim today is plant-based diet will benefit the world. By the world, I mean us and the environment. My supporting claims today will be 1. Plant-based diet leads to a healthy lifestyle. 2. Meat-based diets are harmful to our environment. So my first supporting claim is that a plant-based diet leads to a healthy lifestyle. This diet reduces the risk of obesity, which creates a decrease in heart problems. According to David Maskey and Mangles from CQ researchers on February 23, 2001 states, meat contains high levels of saturated fat and raises the level of bad cholesterol. This diet also lessens the chance of getting diabetes. As reported by Barbara Mantle from CQ researchers on October 1, 2010, 1/3 of children and 2/3 of adults are overweight or obese, posing a daunting public health challenge. Those adults are more likely to develop serious illnesses like heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. Not to mention, this diet will decrease the probability of getting cancer. Barbara Mantle furthermore mentions, obesity and overweight have been clearly linked to increased risk of kidney cancer, endometrial cancer, and postmenopausal breast cancer. So now, a meat-based diet is difficult for our bodies to process. A human intestinal tract resembles a herbivore's tract significantly. A writer from LexisNexis academic states, the length of our intestines is somewhere between 7 to 13 times of our torso. Our torso is between here to right here. So that's the same length of all herbivorous animals on this planet. The length of meat eaters' intestines are only 3 to 6 times their torso. They have short intestinal tracts so that they can quickly push the consumed meat, meaning that in our bodies, the bacteria in the meat multiply quicker, which increases the chance of food poisoning. So now that you heard my first supporting claim, my second supporting claim is that meat-based diets are harmful to our environment. This diet consumes a significant amount of our water. An author from LexisNexis academic on March 23, 2013 comments, it takes 300 gallons of water to support a plant-based for one person for one day, and 4,000 gallons for an omnivore. That's about 13 more times the amount of water wasted on a meat-based diet. The author comments later, it requires 2,500 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef versus 25 gallons of water for 1 pound of wheat. That 2,500 gallons is equivalent to taking a 7-minute shower every day for 6 months. So now that you've heard that, this meat-based diet also causes more pollution to our environment. A writer from EBSCO on November 2nd, 2011 said, meat in their diet, which requires more land and resources to produce, 10 acres devoted to growing rice or wheat requires fewer resources, produces less pollution, and can feed a lot more people than 10 acres devoted to raising cattle. To add on to that, another author states that raising cattle, sheep, and other animals for food is one of the worst offenders, pumping about 90 million tons of CO2 equivalent emission a year. Now comparing that to an average person that consumes CO2 emission per year is 16.2 tons per person, comments Jeffrey D. from LexisNexis. So now that you heard my secondary claims about how a plant-based diet can lead to a healthy lifestyle and how meat-based diets are harmful to our environment, my supporting claim, again, is that plant-based diet will benefit the world. Thank you.
All right, Elizabeth. I like the Gandhi quote at the beginning. That's fine. It sets up the idea that there's something that we could do every day about these sorts of issues and gives us a little bit of controversy on this. Your proposition is pretty clearly identified at the beginning, and there's a very good preview of what you're going to be talking about. I like that. You signpost very clearly in the body of the speech. That's good. Sometimes I think that there are some presuppositions that need to be explained a little bit more as you're developing your argument. The link to lifestyle issues, for instance, you've got a bunch of stuff that talks about how being overweight creates these problems. What's missing is the link to meat consumption and being overweight. The closest that you come to having that direct link was early on, where you were talking about saturated fats and cholesterol. That I thought was much more clearly related to the meat-based diet than anything else that you had there. And so I think that's a little bit problematic. You've got some other information that talks about how, I guess, humans are more likely to benefit based on the length of their intestines. So that's an interesting comparison that's being made. Some of that information is explained well. I'm not always sure that you cite it as clearly as it needs to be cited. One of the things that I saw in your presentation is I can tell that you were trying to cite the information, but what you're doing basically is you're giving us the database that the information is coming from and not the author or the qualifications that it's going on. LexisNexis that's like saying the library said, and that's not really where the information comes from. It's something that's located on that site, but that's not the primary site. So you have to find the primary site for that information to back it up. I don't doubt that what you've got is accurate information, but I know that the citation that you're presenting here is not the way it needs to be presented. So that'll be something. And EBSCOhost, the same sort of thing. EBSCOhost is a database. It is not the source. It's just a place where you can find those sources, and so you want to make sure that you're citing the information correctly. But I can see that you're trying to do that. That's just you've got that a little bit off. I thought you had good statistical information, very solid testimony, although I do think you need to, like I said, kind of connect some of those points a little bit more, especially on that first point. We do need a little bit of comparative data. You give us a lot of information about how much water is being used and that sort of thing, but there's not any demonstration that there's any harm that occurs because of the amount of water usage, and I think that that's something that's a little problematic. On your presentation, there's probably a little bit more reading than you want to do, and it sounds a little bit like you're rushing, you're kind of anxious, probably a little anxiety stuff that comes along. So I think you can pace yourself a little more effectively, and that'll enhance your presentation too. But structural stuff is solid. You have good information, just needs to be cited a little bit more effectively, and probably a little bit more practice would help you too. All right, thank you.